Greetings and salutations, folks, and welcome back to Destiny 2, specifically as part of a meet the Tower Guns, as part of a test for Google Stadia, or Stadia. This time, I'm having it run under non-ideal conditions, specifically with the quality set at 4K. There's still some ideal conditions going on. It's still hooked up, like it's still running on my PC, still hooked up via wired connection to the internet. But it's definitely running on a manner that I don't ever intend to use, at the very least, while I have a data cap. When you set it the data usage to the best quality, which would be the 4K, it warns you that this will use up to 20 gigabytes an hour. If I have a data cap of 1 terabyte, that would mean, let's see, so 5 hours would be 100 gigabytes. So that would be, I could play video games for for 50 hours per month. Let us equip this real quick, I think. 750 goes to 753. Oh, I do have a new helmet. So yeah, 50 hours in a month. Like, let's say you divide that per week. Like 50 divided by 4, that's what, about 12 and a half hours per week? No, I don't want to buy silver. Let's see. So I go to Zvala, I think. So yeah, that's about like 12 and a half hours per week, which gives you roughly less than...
Welcome to the Tower, Guardian. Beautiful view, isn't it? The Traveler is battle-worn, and as always have a trick up his sleeve.
Which comes out to like less than, it comes out to about like 2 hours, less than 2 hours a day, which means that at less than 2 hours a day of gaming, that uses up my entire data cap. That is assuming that video games are the only thing I use my internet for, and that I am the only person who has access to the internet. Nobody else is watching any movies on Netflix, nobody's doing any streaming, nobody's checking their email. Because this uses up everything.
I hear you survived the Cosmodrome. That's a tough place to start your new life, Guardian. Come back safe.
Oh yeah, that's what they say. They're like, Destiny 2, Beyond the Cosmodrome. What am I looking for? Navigate unlocked destinations. Oh, no, I have to... There we go. Select the destinations. Select Earth. So, yeah, like playing games on having that high fidelity is having that high fidelity without necessarily have that ticket for entry, not having to worry about the cost of your hardware, is on one hand the big selling point of Google Stadia, but if your internet isn't good enough, you can't use it. If your Become legend. That does not sound like a particularly interesting quest. And if you have issues in regards to data caps, that makes the entire idea very impossible, especially if you expect to actually use the internet for something else. But I figure at the very least, for testing purposes, I can sacrifice 10 to 20 gigabytes of my allotted download capacity. Hello. Let's start an adventure.
Let's get started. There's a banner on the main floor. Give it a look, will you?
But there's also other things that can be talked about in regards to Google Stadia and other issues.
This is a fallen house sigil. I don't recognize it, though.
The first that I'd like to bring up is the actual store system and the way that Google Stadia is currently set up. Currently it is set up like the unifying factor is a phone app.
See if you find a cache in one of the buildings nearby.
Like when I wanted to activate my account, I did so through the phone app rather than on the PC. Because, and I think I can understand a reasoning for this. Like, the idea of the Google Stadia is that you can access it from many different devices. So, like, instead of creating multiple different ways to access it, they just created one way that...
Well done. To survive, we'll have to look for every opportunity. Keep your eyes peeled for more supplies in the wilds. Speaking of the wilds, there's a symbol on the wall of the church. Take a look.
One way that is easily accessible to anybody who would also have access to Google Stadia. Excuse me, I'm just passing by. But
Devrim, where did this symbol come from?
I believe your city hunters must have put them here and there about the region as they scouted around. I think they meant it to mark something special. Or dangerous.
Or both. Let's go check it out.
do I really need to worry about shaders? Can I just play the game? That's very nice. Okay. So, like, let's say you wanted to buy a game. You can't do it on your PC. You have to bring out the phone to buy a game. When you're looking at Google Stadia on the PC, all you are looking at really is just a game library, more than anything else. There's nothing that really is shown past that. And it's not exactly like there's that much to see at the moment. The entire Stadia store, if you remove the multiple editions of the same game, there are only 20 titles. Oh, looks like you're safe behind there. Oh, hello. There are only like 20 games on there. So you've got very limited store selection, very limited storefront in regards to being set up. And then you combine that with options that are limited towards... there are only like 3 options for setting up data usage. You can either use all of the data, they choose how much data to use depending on your connection, or you cap it at 720. Those are the only 3 options. And that makes me feel as though that Stadia could have used a little bit more time. Oh, hello. A little bit more time before they released it. Oh, hello. How are you? Another thing, like, and I feel that this all ties back to, like, even if they had a proper storefront, it still ties back to
Down there,
the
you
original launch of the
keep an eye
Xbox
out for
One.
other hidey holes and treasures like this one. But that's for another day. In the meantime, what say we get down to business? Come on back up to the church tower. I'm putting a kettle on now.
Pointless trivia, you never get to have anything from that kettle. That like deals with the launch of the Xbox One, but because one of the things they were talking about with the Xbox One was that it was going to be all digital, and they've only recently actually released an all digital Xbox One. But the idea of all digital makes probably a bit more sense for downloading purposes. But for streaming purposes, you're definitely relying especially on the quality of people's internet connection, which is very, very far for Universal. That all said, I feel as though like a streaming service
Take a look.
or something like
Come see me again, Guardian.
what Google Stadia offers would, in theory, like offer the greatest accessibility for video games to the most people. Not everybody is going to have that super-powered... heck, I guess you don't really need a super-powered PC. Not everybody's going to have a PC that they have acquired for video games. Not everybody is going to have the latest video game console.
Anything you need.
So the idea that all you have to do
But I'll cover for you here.
to essentially play the latest video games is to... All you need to do is have a controller and a computer that has a Chrome browser on it. Makes things very, very convenient. Complete the world quests. So, like, it takes that, like, normally that barrier for entry, should I say, is a lot higher for video games in general. If you want to be playing the latest console games, you need to buy the latest console. You buy it at launch, you're going to be shelling out $400, $500, $600 if it was the PlayStation 3. And that's just for the console. It doesn't really even count the games. If you want to buy a PC that's good enough, depending on who you buy it from, depending on if you make it or whether it's already been made for you, that could range anywhere from like 1,000 and up. Again, this is depending on how good you are at finding the best bargain. So the idea that all you need is just an average PC that runs the internet.
Thanks for checking in, you two. We've had our fill of Red Legion patrols and Fallen raids. We could use a spot of help with both.
See if you can track down a Fallen comms terminal. Dev's got an idea that's crazy enough to work.
It's difficult for the young to recognize the wisdom of experience.
So yeah, like the idea that all you would really need to do is just have a controller that you can plug in, and you're good to go. Sounds like an impressive way to introduce people to video games who may not have the accessibility to them. They might not have the space in their living area.
What say you use your access to prepare a broadcast in Fallen speak?
What say you?
This Cabal communications cipher to use.
That said, I do think there are some limitations in regards to Google Stadia's approach that they can improve on. as well as other things they can do to draw. Oh, I gotta kill some Fallen. There are a lot of things they could do to improve the Google Stadia experience on the storefront side. The first thing that I would argue is for their exclusive games, offer demos. Right now, I believe there's at least one Google exclusive game, and that is Guilt. And that does not have a demo. It's $30 for the full game.
I've got enough for a pretty convincing Fallen impression.
Don't mention accents around Dev unless you want a day-long lecture about city dialects. Meantime, best sightline to Red Legion air support is the cliffside where you and I set up that refugee beacon.
No one appreciates the finer things anymore.
So that is there. If there are demos for games, just assuming like everybody can easily get access to Amazon storefront because it's just through Chrome. You don't really need to buy anything to access it. All you would have to have is just a controller that can plug into a PC, and heck, depending on the game, you don't even need that. So if there was a free demo,
Back into the mines again.
that would make for an extremely accessible experience.
You'll be able to use a Fallen teleporter to reach the top. Bad news, they've wired the place to explode.
So either like a demo, free-to-play games sound as though they would... Like, I'm not saying put Fortnite on. Like, that would be impossible because Epic is not going to do something that's going to be competing against their storefront. But something that, like, I feel like if they offered something that would make it easy for new players or players who might not necessarily be interested in the Google Stadia experience to try it. Like, imagine if the only way to try... Oh, that is not even a item. Are you down there? Hold on. Sneaky sneak. Okay. So, like, imagine if there was a way for people to try it without having to buy a $60 game. Like, heck, even for the games that aren't their exclusives. Just get demos on them. Oh, damn it. That way people can just try it for free and be like, hey, I wonder how well Stadia works for my system, how well it works for my setup. If there was no cost to just giving it a go, that would attract more people to be like, hey, let's load it up, see what happens. Instead of having to buy a game for something that they might not necessarily even feel confident that the storefront will even exist months from now or years from now.
Got it. Now I can transmit these horribly dangerous explosives wherever we need.
Yeah, I remember this mission. This mission is awesome because he just drops explosives everywhere. And this elevator... Oh, never mind. I don't remember this mission. I wanted to say that there is a mission in which the elevator just kind of collapses on you. And you're like, oh, I guess we're taking the long way up. So yeah. So yeah, the first step would be doing something to attract new players or people who just might not be sure if they're into the thing. Oh, I'm preparing for an ambush. Excuse me, sir. Are you aware of this ambush I'm preparing for? The second thing
Great work. Broadcasting the message now.
is in regards to pricing.
Why would you?
Marauder, eh? You know the thing that really lights my candle about their language?
Lights my candle?
Actually, Devrim, let's keep the channel clear. You know, to make sure there's no interference during the transmat.
A lot of big red ships headed your way. Whatever you said, it got their attention.
I used a pretty nasty word to describe Gaul. I don't want to repeat it here.
I do so love unconventional warfare.
I told them that their mother was a hamster and their father smelled of elderberries. But yeah, like the idea that you'd be spending $60 on a game that can only be accessed online. Like, it's not even like the idea that you don't actually physically own the game, because that doesn't really mean anything anymore. There are plenty of, like, I had even questioned the idea of digital gaming, but I've got plenty of games that I own through the PS4 storefront, Xbox One storefront. But like, there have been issues in regards to streaming services in the past that have not lasted. And people have lost ownership of the things they had purchased because the companies had decided, you know what, this isn't going to work out, we're going to have to close up shop. Hello, how are you? So the idea of charging like $60 for a new game is a little bit much, especially considering how dependent the games are on data usage.
I could hear the explosions all the way back here. I bet it was quite a show.
Which means the Fallen and Red Legion heard it too. We'll let them shoot at each other for a while and clean up whatever's left. Great work.
So there's something that could be said about not necessarily just discounts, but what else they can offer that other platforms can't. Why would you choose to purchase, let's say, Destiny 2 on Google Stadia versus any other system? I'm sure there's more things they could necessarily do, but I'm sure that is all the time we have for now. Thank you for watching. Questions, comments, recommendations for something to play next? Comment down below or send it on over to itsoundedgoodonpaper@gmail.com. That's itsoundedgoodonpaper@gmail.com. So long for now.